My name is Lydia Cross. For 11 years, I flew combat aircraft for the United States Navy. But to my brother-in-law, I was just the woman with a limp who could not move on. He called me Costco GI Jane at a backyard barbecue in front of my entire family. He said it with a beer in his hand, smoke from the grill behind him, and my 7-year-old nephew standing close enough to hear every word. "Come on, Lydia," he laughed. "You weren't exactly storming beaches. You sat in a cockpit. That is basically a flying office." No one laughed loudly. That was worse. They smiled the way people smile when they want cruelty to pass quickly. My sister looked at the ground. My mother whispered, "Just ignore him." I had been ignoring Randy Harlow for 6 years. I ignored him when he called my cane dramatic. I ignored him when he said veterans use trauma as a personality. I ignored him when he told people I only received attention because female pilots make good headlines. I ignored him because he was married to my little sister. Because my sister was tired. Because their children needed weekends that did not turn into war zones. Because I had already seen enough war. Then he lifted his bottle toward me and said, "Honestly, the military charity world is easy money. People see a uniform and start crying into their checkbooks." That was the first time I looked up. 2 months later, I walked into a hotel ballroom in Mobile, Alabama, and saw my own Navy photo printed on a banner behind a stage. Veteran Mentorship Alliance. Founder, Randall Harlow. Special honoree, Commander Lydia Cross. My face. My record. My call sign. My war. All being used to raise money for a foundation I had never agreed to support. Randy saw me near the entrance and smiled like a man who had stolen a medal and expected me to polish it. "Lydia," he said, throwing his arms wide. "There she is. Our hero." I looked at the donors, the cameras, the fake veteran banners. Then I looked at Earl Bannon, the retired SEAL standing quietly by the sound booth. He nodded once, and I knew he had the evidence ready. So when Randy handed me the microphone and whispered, "Just say family supports family," I smiled. Then I said, "My name is Lydia Cross. Some men in Kandahar used to call me Ghost Dove, and this foundation is a fraud. Let me back up. Because before Randy stole my name, he spent years trying to make sure I hated it. I came home from the Navy at 38 with a titanium plate in my hip, nerve pain down my left leg, and a silence in my chest that did not know how to become ordinary. People imagine returning home as one clean moment. A door opens. Family cries. Flags wave. The veteran steps back into normal life. That is not how it works. Normal is not a room you enter. It is a language you have to relearn. I had to relearn grocery stores, crowded restaurants, fireworks, sleep. The first time a car backfired outside my apartment, I hit the floor before I remembered there was no flight deck under me. My hip hurt every morning. Some days it felt like hot wire. Some days it felt like a fist buried under bone. I still walked without the cane when I could, because strangers had opinions about women who limp. A man with gray hair and a limp is called distinguished. A woman with the same pain is called worn out. At family events, people asked why I did not date, why I seemed tense, why I never wore heels anymore, why I did not tell fun stories from the war. Fun stories. As if combat came with dinner-friendly chapters. My sister, Emily, tried to understand. She had always been gentle in a way that made people underestimate her. She married Randy when she was 26 because he was loud, confident, and promised her a life that sounded stable. By the time I came home, his construction business was failing. His drinking had become a family weather system, and Emily had learned to measure his mood before answering any question. I saw it immediately. The way she checked his face before laughing. The way she apologized for things that were not her fault. The way loyalty had become archaeology, digging through damage to find the man she thought she married. I hated him for that before he ever mocked me, but I stayed careful. For the kids, for Emily, for the fragile little dinners my mother still tried to create. Then came the barbecue. It was supposed to be simple. Burgers, potato salad, kids running through sprinklers, my mother's porch full of folding chairs. I arrived late because my hip had locked up that morning, and I had spent 20 minutes breathing through the pain on my bathroom floor. Randy saw the cane first. "Oh, here comes Top Gun Medicare," he called. My mother closed her eyes. Emily went pale. I kept walking. I had learned years ago that some men insult you to see if you will bleed where they can watch. Randy handed me a paper plate. "Careful," he said. "Don't pull a muscle carrying that." I set the plate down. "Randy!" "What?" "I'm teasing. Veterans are tough, right?" That word. Teasing? The coward's uniform. He kept going as the afternoon dragged on. He asked if I had ever actually fired anything. He asked if Navy pilots had cup holders. He told my nephews that Aunt Lydia used to park planes for a living. Then he said the thing about charity money. People see a uniform and start crying into their checkbooks. I looked at him for a long time. "You should be careful with that sentence," I said. He laughed. "Why? You going to court-martial me in the backyard?" "No," I said. "I am going to remember it." The barbecue ended with Emily crying in the laundry room, while Randy argued with a cooler because he could not find more beer. I sat beside her on the tile. She pressed both hands to her face. "I keep thinking he will become himself again." "That may not be who he was," I said softly. "That may be who he performed until he didn't have to." She cried harder. I wanted to tell her to leave. But people do not leave because you hand them a conclusion. They leave when the truth becomes safer than the lie. 2 months later, Earl Bannon called me. I had not heard his voice in 8 years. Earl had been SEAL Team 5, Kandahar, 2014. The night no one in the official version described correctly. He said, "Lydia, are you aware you are listed as an advisory chair for a veteran mentorship foundation in Mobile?" I sat down. "No, your service photo is on the website." My hand went cold. "What foundation?" "Veteran Mentorship Alliance. Founder is Randall Harlow." "Randy!" "Of course." Earl sent the link. There I was. Navy portrait. Dress whites. A paragraph about my combat record that mixed truth with theatrical lies. Commander Lydia Cross, decorated naval aviator and survivor advocate, lends her guidance to our mission. I had never lent him anything. Not my guidance. Not my name. Not my ghosts. Earl's voice changed. "There is more." He sent screenshots. Loan applications. Grant proposals. Donor packets. Randy had used my name and service record to imply veteran leadership oversight. He had claimed access to combat-tested mentorship strategies. He had attached my photo to pitch decks sent to local businesses. Then Earl sent the thing that made my stomach turn. Screenshots from Randy's private online comments under a burner account. Veterans are the easiest demographic to market. Half of them just want someone to clap. Female vets are a sympathy goldmine. one comment attached to a photo from my sister's barbecue. That limp is the whole brand. I stood up too quickly and pain shot through my hips so sharply I almost dropped the phone. For a moment, I was back in Kandahar. Not the sky, the sound. Metal screaming. Warning lights. Earl's voice on the radio. Ghost Dove, we are pinned. My aircraft was hit that night. Not destroyed. Damaged enough that I should have left. Fuel was bleeding. Hydraulics were unstable. Command ordered me to return. But Earl's team and a Marine unit were pinned between two compounds with no clean extraction route. I stayed. 23 minutes past the order. 23 minutes of smoke, tracers, fuel warnings, and the kind of prayer that has no words. I put fire between the enemy and the men on the ground until extraction arrived. I remember Earl's voice after, Ghost Dove, you are overhead again. The name started there, not because I was brave, because they could not see me through the smoke, but they knew I was above them, because I kept coming back. People turned that night into a legend. I turned it into physical therapy, nightmares, and a hip that predicted rain. Randy had turned it into fundraising language. Earl said, "Tell me what you want to do." I looked at the website again. Randy had scheduled a donor reception the following Friday. Special honoree, Commander Lydia Cross. He invited me last week. I said, Emily begged me to go. She said it might help him stabilize. Earl was quiet. Then he said, "He is using you as a shield." I know. You do not have to protect everyone from the truth. I closed my eyes. That sentence hit harder than it should have, because that is what I had been doing for years. Protecting my mother from conflict, protecting Emily from humiliation, protecting the kids from seeing their father exposed, protecting Randy from consequences he had earned one insult at a time. I had mistaken silence for mercy, but silence had become shelter for a thief. So I said, "Can you get the documents authenticated?" Earl said, "Already started." The reception was held at the Belle Marchand Hotel in a ballroom with chandeliers and gold curtains. Randy had rented respectability by the hour. Veteran Mentorship Alliance banners stood beside the stage. Red, white, and blue everywhere. Donation envelopes on every table. My photograph enlarged behind the podium. I almost turned around when I saw it. Not because I was afraid. Because grief can ambush you from paper. There I was in that photo, younger, straighter, standing before a version of service that had not yet asked for all it would take. Randy rushed over. He wore a navy suit and the red face of a man who had started drinking before guests arrived. "Lydia," he said, "you look great. Very authentic." Authentic. Like pain was a costume. Emily stood behind him in a blue dress, face tight with embarrassment. "Thank you for coming," she whispered. I wanted to hug her. Instead, I touched her arm. "Stay near the exit." Her eyes widened. Randy did not notice. He was already guiding me toward donors. "This is my sister-in-law," he said again and again. "Real deal, combat pilot, ghost mama." He got the call sign wrong on every introduction. Ghost mama, as if I had flown over war zones carrying sandwiches and maternal approval. Every time he said it, Earl's jaw tightened from across the room. He had come in quietly with two other veterans, both men who had been in Kandahar, both men who understood that stolen valor was not only wearing medals you did not earn, sometimes it was turning someone else's survival into your business model. The program began at 7. Randy opened with a speech about service, sacrifice, and his deep personal connection to the veteran community. He had never served, not one day. He spoke about our warriors with the easy confidence of a man who believed emotion could replace credentials. Then he called me to the stage. "My honored sister-in-law, Commander Lydia Cross," he said, "proof that this foundation is built on real sacrifice." Applause filled the room. I walked slowly because my hip was hurting. For once, I did not try to hide it. Randy handed me the microphone and leaned close. "Family supports family," he whispered. I smiled. Then I faced the room. "My name is Lydia Cross," I said. "I am a former United States Navy aviator. Some men in Kandahar used to call me Ghost of." Randy's smile flickered. "This foundation," I said, "has used my name, image, and service record without my consent." A murmur moved through the ballroom. Randy stepped toward me. "Lydia, this is not..." I turned slightly. "Do not interrupt a veteran during her own story." The room went quiet. Earl moved to the projector. The first slide appeared. My photo from the foundation website. Then the donor packet. Then the loan application listing me as advisory chair. Then the grant proposal claiming my involvement in program development. I said, "I did not approve these materials. I did not advise this organization. I did not review donor funds, mentorship plans, veteran outreach, or financial records." Randy's face darkened. "This is family drama," he said to the crowd. "She has PTSD. Sometimes she misunderstands." Earl stepped forward. "My name is Earl Bannon," he said. "Former SEAL Team 5. I was on the ground in Kandahar when Commander Cross stayed overhead 23 minutes past recall to keep my team alive." The room changed. Donors sat straighter. A man near the front removed his glasses. Earl continued. "If she says she did not authorize this, she did not authorize this." Randy tried to laugh. "Great, another military buddy." The next slide appeared. His online comments. "Veterans are the easiest demographic to market. Female vets are a sympathy goldmine. That limp is the whole brand." Someone gasped. Emily covered her mouth. Randy turned toward the screen like he could stop the words by staring at them. I felt no triumph. Only heat. Clean. Terrible. Necessary. Then the loan documents appeared. False veteran leadership claims. Misrepresented advisory board. Personal construction debts tied to foundation startup expenses. Donor funds redirected to Harlow Construction Consulting. A lawyer in the third row stood up. "Are these verified?" Earl said.